Good afternoon. It's been exactly 2 years to the day since I began living in the back of a minivan, and I've been reflecting on that journey because through it I learned one of the most important, one of the most life changing lessons of my life. And I can see now in retrospect when I reflect on that time period, I was always looking for something. There was something that I perceived myself to always be lacking. I was always looking for something. It was incredibly frustrating because although I knew I was looking for something, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to find it. But I knew that I was looking for something because eventually I did find it. And I knew what it was when I found it because it was actually the thing that I did not want to find, and I found it where I least expected to look. And so, for context, when I began the journey of living in a van, I can look back on those days now because I recorded them, and there was so much levity to me. I was a young, happy skipper starting a new adventure. I was carefree, I was childlike, I was seeing the world with fresh eyes. I was just happy to be there. I was happy to be living a different life than what I had been living. And everything just seemed new. But like all things, the honeymoon phase wore off, and after a few months, reality set in. And the reality was I had left the town where I was from. In this van, I traveled down south into the unknown, and the money that I had saved up was rapidly depleting. It was depleting faster than what I had expected. And so I was like, all right, this is fine. Everything's fine. But I was getting worried. And besides the money, the thing that I had never expected was I was becoming very lonely as well. I was lonely, I was isolated, I wasn't talking to very many people. The conversations that I did have were short, passerby, shallow conversations, just with like grocery store workers and coffee shop employees. Hello, goodbye, things like that. And I personally enjoy deep conversations. I'm not a big small talk enjoyer, but I didn't realize the extent to which I cherished genuine human connection until I was deprived of it. And so these were the realities that were setting in. I was running out of money. I was feeling incredibly lonely and isolated. And so a thought started to come into my mind about maybe 3 months into it. The honeymoon phase is gone, and I'm like, I need to succeed. I don't really know what success looks like out here, but I need to succeed because if I don't start to make money, I'm going to starve. This is I'm going to be entering dangerous territory before too long. And so 3 months pass, 4 months pass, 5 months pass. I'm working as hard as I can. I'm creating videos. I'm writing. I'm training as hard as I can possibly train. That helps my mind. That helps my body. That helps my health. I'm living well across the board. I'm eating well. I've let go of any addictive vices that I had. But no matter what I try, success doesn't come. But I keep trying, and I noticed something different changed. Something changed within me, rather, which is that whereas initially I was going towards this vague thing that I thought of as success, it stopped even being about success, and it was more about, all right, now I'm feeling like a failure. I was going towards success. I didn't know what success was. Now I feel like a failure. And I didn't really think about it that way explicitly. But everything changed, and it's not as though I viewed myself as a failure or a loser, but rather I was so apprehensive to being these things. I say desperately, I'm hesitant to use a word like that, but that is the reality. I desperately did not want to be a failure. I was seeking validation. I wanted this journey that I was on to be validated. I wanted to be validated relative to myself. I wanted to be validated and vindicated to other people. I didn't want to come off as an insane person who went out and lived in a van, took this big risk, and then lost it all and had nothing to show for it. I really did not want that to happen. So 5 months pass, 7 months pass, 9 months pass. Around that time, I start to get a job at a coffee shop because I completely ran out of money, so I had to make money. I'm working at a coffee shop, and there's a subtle change within me once again, which is I am going towards success. I'm absolutely apprehensive to failure. I do not want to be a loser. I do not want to be seen as a loser. I don't want to think of myself as a loser. But I just can't help but question why I keep losing. I perceive the things that I'm doing as losing, and I just want to succeed, even though there is no defined success. But this change that happened is there was a subtle, I'll call it a voice, but it really wasn't a voice. It was like a belief, meaning I believed this idea, which is that, again, kind of like a voice saying, you're not looking for success. It was something like that. I was seeking success outwardly, but this voice that I did believe was saying, you're not looking for success. You're not looking for success. And so there's a bunch of tension happening within me. It's kind of a war happening within me, which is that I want to succeed. I want to not be a loser. But then I also feel like I've taken this whole journey for reasons beyond all of that. I always felt that way, but I feel this way even more. I feel like I felt like I was taking this journey for a greater reason. But that's what I mean when I say I was looking for something, but I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know how to find it. And that voice just kept persisting. That belief persisted. You're not looking for success. You're not looking for success. And so I was in that turmoil, suffering for 12 months, 14 months, 16 months, 18 months. The whole time just yearning to not be a loser. If I'm being 100% honest with you, it became that more than anything else. I just did not want to see myself as a loser. I did not want other people to see me as a loser. I was yearning for vindication, and it was a yearning that wasn't there so much when the journey began, but it started to cultivate because I wasn't finding any success, and then I wanted so bad to. Does this paradox make sense? I wanted this vague thing of success, but my attention was actually on not being a loser. So 18 months ends. At that point, my van breaks down. I make it 18 months. The van breaks down, and I move back to where I'm from, the town that I left to begin with. One thing leads to another, and I find myself sleeping outside, fully homeless, little red cheap sleeping bag. It's a beautiful night, though. I'm looking up at the stars. And I'm in this little red sleeping bag, trembling, terrified. Because I realize in that moment how vulnerable I am out there. Somebody could stumble upon me. They may not see me as dangerous, but they may not expect to see me, and their reaction might put me into physical harm just because they don't expect to see anyone. I think that I might go to jail because I'm not on private property, but I believe I'm not supposed to be sleeping out here. And so I'm terrified because I can't leave the situation. It's too dark outside. And my vulnerability and my fragilities overwhelm me. I'm trembling in my fragility. And I'm wondering, what am I going to say if somebody does stumble upon me? And then when I ask that question, my mind, for the first time, I didn't even realize it. It has been loud for months, but my mind goes completely silent. And I tell myself, well, I'm homeless. If somebody stumbles upon me out here, all I'm going to tell them is, I'm sorry, I'm just homeless. And then I started laughing. And I was laughing at how seriously I'd come to take myself. And I was laughing at how beautifully ridiculous the whole journey that I'd been on was. And I was laughing because I was relieved. I saw so clearly that the only reason why I'd come to feel like a failure is because I was afraid of being a failure, is because I had a desire to not be a failure. And so that's where all of my attention was going. And again, it has nothing to do with scoreboard or the wins and losses of life or the results of anything, but rather there is a game aspect of life, and you can either play to win or you can play to not lose. And playing to win is growth, learning. Playing to win is not taking yourself too seriously and allowing yourself to be light. Playing to win is not focusing on the scoreboard and the wins and losses, but rather focusing on what you can control and enjoying the game. Playing to win is simply playing. But playing to lose, oddly enough, is actually the only way. Playing to not lose, rather, is the only way that you can lose. Because playing to lose stops you from playing the game. You start to hoard the things that you have. You start to hold on to your past successes, and your past successes or failures or any identity that you've carried. They all weigh you down, and they're not true. And that's why this simple admittance of I am homeless was so relieving, because it was like it was such a humbling thing to say that it was destruction of my ego. It dissolved all of these false identities that I'd built up, whether they were positive perceptions of myself or negative perceptions of myself. I had a remembrance of dust to dust. That all of these things that I was worried about, they didn't matter. That isn't to say that life doesn't matter, but rather these games that I was playing trying to validate myself relative to myself and relative to other people, seeking external validation through accomplishments, it was a futile endeavor. And it was the thing that was making me hold on to identities that were not mine. It was the thing that was causing me to play to not lose rather than just simply play to win. And playing to not lose is what exiles us from the present moment. And if I put that in one succinct phrase, it's something like, if you expect perfection, perfection will never come, and you will postpone your life until there is nothing left to postpone. And for now, that's all that I have. Goodbye.